Good afternoon, and welcome to the LEAD Center's inaugural webinar, Exploring the New National Center on Leadership for the Employment and Economic Advancement of People with Disabilities, otherwise known as the LEAD Center. My name is Elizabeth Jennings. I am the Assistant Project Director for the LEAD Center, and I will be today's moderator. The National Center on Leadership for the Employment and Economic Advancement of People with Disabilities is a collaborative of disability, workforce, and economic empowerment organizations led by National Disability Institute with funding from the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy. I'm now going to take a moment to invite my colleague, Nakia Webinar, to provide you with some housekeeping tips.
Good afternoon, everyone. The audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. You can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel, which you see below. If you accidentally close this panel or if the sound becomes paused or a little bit messed up, you can close that panel and reopen it from the top menu item by going to Communicate, Join Audio Broadcast. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer or you prefer to listen by phone, you can dial the number you see here with the meeting code, and you do not need to enter an attendee ID. Real-time captioning is provided during this webinar for those who are deaf, hard of hearing, or for whom English is a second language. The captions can be found in the Media Viewer panel, which appears in the lower right-hand corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make this Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize the other panels like Chat, Q&A, or Participants. There will be a question and answer section at the end of the webinar. Please use the chat box or the Q&A box to send any questions you have during the webinar to myself, Nakia Matthews, or to Brittany Taylor, and we will direct the questions accordingly. If you are listening by phone and not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing Brittany directly at btaylor@ndi-inc.org. Please note this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on the NDI website at the URL you see below. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send me a message, Nakia Matthews, or you may also email me at nmatthews, with 2 T's, at ndi-inc.org.
We have an exciting agenda for you today that will provide you with an overview of the LEAD Center's initiatives. We're going to first start with welcome and overview of today's agenda, an overview of ODEP'S vision for the LEAD Center, comments provided by Kathy Martinez and given to us today by Rhonda Basha, the LEAD Center's mission and focus by Michael Morris, the LEAD Center's leadership activities provided by Karen McCullough and Kelly Buckland, the LEAD Center's employment activities provided by myself, Lisa Mills, and Barbara Walensky, the LEAD Center's economic advancement activities provided by Jonathan Mintz, Amelia Irwit, and Michael Morris, the LEAD Center's public policy activities provided by Michael Morris and Ari Miaman, and some ways that you can join us, opportunities to participate in the LEAD Center, and we'll conclude with a question and answer session. If at the end of the webinar your questions have not been answered, we will capture them from the chat box and get back in touch with you to make sure that all of your answers from today's webinar have been answered. I'd now like to welcome Karen McCullough. She is the Project Director for the LEAD Center. Karen is an accomplished professional and a small business owner, and we're proud to have her join the National Disability Institute team to lead this project.
Hello, everyone. This is Karen. I just want to welcome you to our first webinar for the LEAD Center. We're very excited about it today. And as you can hear from what Elizabeth was introducing, we have a very full agenda for the time that we're together today. So I'm very, very pleased to have this opportunity to do the welcome. And I'm going to keep it brief because I want to turn it over to Michael Morris, the Executive Director of the National Disability Institute, to do an introduction of our next speaker. Michael?
Thanks, Karen. It is wonderful to be on with all of you across the country today, and this being our first in a series of webinars that will be taking place all year. Before we get going, I want to introduce to you ODEP'S Assistant Secretary Kathy Martinez, who was scheduled to be with us on the webinar today. Unfortunately, some things unexpectedly came up and she's not able to join us. However, I am very pleased to be able to introduce to you ODEP'S Chief of Staff, Rhonda Basha, who's going to say a few introductory remarks on behalf of Assistant Secretary Martinez. Many of you know Rhonda, who's an attorney and currently ODEP'S Chief of Staff. Many of you know her in the disability world, particularly for her advocacy and strong work and policy related to the area of youth with disabilities. Rhonda has been at ODEP since its beginning more than 10 years ago. She, prior to ODEP, served on the Presidential Task Force on Employment of Adults with Disabilities. We are lucky, all of us, to have someone like Rhonda, a strong advocate, strong spokesperson for people with disabilities inside government, moving a strong disability policy agenda. We appreciate her stepping in today for some brief remarks on behalf of Kathy Martinez. Rhonda?
Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of Kathy Martinez, welcome to this LEAD kickoff webinar. Kathy really wanted to be here today, but something came up unexpectedly, and she sends her regrets. She wanted me to take time and convey to you the message that she had planned on giving herself. ODEP envisions LEAD, which stands for Leadership for Employment and Advancement of Citizens with Disabilities, as a high-impact, first-rate entity that utilizes a comprehensive approach to stimulate change at both the systems and individual levels to significantly move the ball forward in terms of the employment and socioeconomic advancement of citizens with disabilities. As such, LEAD will promote and facilitate sustainable transformation of public and private systems involved in the training and employment of workers and prospective workers with disabilities, and will develop, validate, and promote broad adoption of innovative strategies to improve employment and socioeconomic outcomes at the individual level. We're really excited that LEAD has assembled a superb team of highly qualified organizations and experts. They're all national leaders in the development and implementation of innovative strategies, cutting-edge policy reform, and effective practices. The team's passion for its mission is both energizing and infectious, and we know you're going to be hearing a lot about their cutting-edge work through the web, through social media, and through the organizations that you belong to. The LEAD team has developed a comprehensive, inspiring action plan that will help ODEP realize this vision. In addition to the development and documentation of strategies, program models, and effective practices that federal, state, and local agencies and employers can replicate, the Center will identify effective approaches to policy coordination, systems innovation, capacity building, and blending and braiding to promote better collaboration and leveraging of resources across traditional engineering systems. In collaboration with the LEAD team, ODEP is leading the way toward a new era rooted in belief and understanding that all individuals with disabilities are capable of productive work, of advancing their socioeconomic status, and truly participating in their communities. Now I have the tremendous pleasure of reintroducing you to Michael Morris, the architect behind the LEAD Center, and its executive director, who will provide additional information. Welcome again.
Thanks, Rhonda. And we appreciate greatly the wonderful team at ODEP that we work with, headed up by Kathy and you as Chief of Staff. We really want to acknowledge for everyone the wonderful team led by Christopher Button, Serena Lowe, Speed Davis, Carol Boyer, and others. This is a collaborative effort. The LEAD Center mission is a mission I think we can all buy into, whether you're in government at a local, state, or federal level, whether you're an individual with a disability, a job seeker, whether you're a mature worker looking to stay at work or return to work, whether you're a workforce development professional, whether you're a policy maker, whether you're an employer, whether you're a member of staff of one of America's job centers or an independent living center. The LEAD Center mission is to advance sustainable individual and system level change that results in improved, competitive integrated employment and economic self-sufficiency outcomes for individuals across the spectrum of disability. We have 5 goals, 5 strategic goals to meet this overall mission. It's important for all of us to realize, and I know wherever you are in this country, whether you're working at a national level or you're working at a state or local level, or you're a person with a disability or a member of a family with a person with a disability, we all know there are too many people with disabilities unemployed and underemployed. We all know there are too many people with disabilities living in poverty. Our goal with the LEAD Center, working with ODEP, is to try to see in so many different ways how we can sustain change at an individual and systems level. Goal number 1, sustainable systems change through development, dissemination, and bringing to scale of novel, innovative solutions, solution-oriented models, approaches, and practices. Goal number 2, strengthen capacity of the workforce investment sector by coordinating and providing state-of-the-art technical assistance, training, and knowledge transfer activities. Goal number 3, implement and document effective retention and return to work policies and strategies at both an individual and systems level. Goal number 4, develop policy analysis and tools to advance ODEP leadership's role to promote federal policy change that enhances employment and economic self-sufficiency for adults with disabilities. And then finally, goal 5 is to serve as a central locus and repository of information on best practices and successful strategies, both for individual job seekers and employment systems. I know that as we look across these 5 goals, and for many of you, you're hearing about these goals for the first time, what's fundamental to all of this is systems change. There is a definition, a working definition, that ODEP has been utilizing for the past several years that looks at systems change from multiple components: capacity building, coordination not just within America's job centers with the different mandated partners, but also coordination with employers and coordination with other systems that touch people with disabilities and can be part of the solution in terms of building capacity to achieve better employment outcomes and improved economic status. Customization is recognizing the notion of there isn't one way to serve and support and achieve that type of valued outcome related to employment and economic status. It's also about expanding choices within the workforce development system in cooperation with employers, in cooperation with other public systems, and other workforce development professionals. It's about looking at both building on effective practices and bringing them to scale, and it's also about developing new practices. And you're going to hear about some of the specific projects and activities that will begin this year in 2013 and continue over the next several years. And of course, it's not just to define effective practice, document it, demonstrate it, but it's also to translate that new knowledge in both building capacity of the service delivery system and systems, both generic and disability-specific systems, but it's also about getting the word out to people with disabilities and their families and disability service providers, that we work together across any lines of division, that the vocational rehabilitation system works with the workforce development system, that we work together with Medicaid and mental health and transportation and housing, and build the pathways to advance better employment outcomes and economic self-sufficiency. And ultimately, our work isn't done unless we can find ways through policy and sustainable practice that what we do isn't just while this funding lasts as provided in concert with ODEP, but it's how we institutionalize the good things that we learn, the documentation of policy and practice at a local, state, and federal level where we can make a difference. So it's about scalability and sustainability, and we hope that you'll be joining us on this journey over the next 5 years. In framing the picture about the LEAD Center, we realize that the problems are complex, both in terms of, as I said before, the rate of employment and the rate of poverty for people with disabilities. We brought into our fold, in building a very powerful consortium, 7 national organizations, 12 dissemination partners, and a pool of national subject matter experts. We realized that there wasn't one organization that could pull together all the different interests and the different perspectives that are going to be needed to build sustainable change. And so we really, using very much the name, the LEAD Center, look at what we will be doing as focused on leadership, employment, and economic advancement. Those 3 phrases will capture overall the synergy of impact of the many activities that we hope we will be able to reach you, change your thinking, change your understanding, and really translate what we're learning into ways that we advance the economic self-sufficiency of people with disabilities. Our national partners are 7. The National Disability Institute that I founded and am the executive director of, we started 7 years ago. The Autistic Self-Advocacy Networks, many of you may know it as ASAN. Cities for Financial Empowerment, a group for those of you who are in the disability sector or disability community will be less familiar with, and you're going to be hearing from them today. The National Association of Workforce Development Professionals, a key group of professionals that are bridging knowledge translation within America's job centers, working within the employment sector in diverse ways. The National Council on Independent Living, many of you know it as NICL, NCIL, the network of independent living centers across the country. TASH, an extraordinary group of subject matter experts from across the country. And the U.S. Business Leadership Network, some of the most committed and progressive employers across market sectors, across the nation, are all part of this core group of national partners. The list of dissemination partners is even longer, and again, quite diverse in terms of their interests. The Community Transportation Association of America, the Institute for Educational Leadership, which leads a similar training and TA center at ODEP focused on youth with disabilities, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, the Job Accommodation Network, the National Association of State Directors of Developmental Disability Services, the National Association of Workforce Boards, the National Cooperative Business Association, NDI Consulting, which is the training and technical assistance contractor for ETA, the Employment and Training Administration Disability Employment Initiative, now in 23 states, the National Federation of Community Development Credit Unions, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, RESNA, the Rehab Engineering and Assistive Technology Society of North America, and labor, very prominent labor union, Service Employees International Union. We have also quite a pool of subject matter experts. Mira Adjuv, Director of Research at Burton Blatt Institute, Syracuse University. Terry Bergman, who works directly with the National Association of Workforce Boards. Mike Callahan and Abby Cooper, Mark Gold and Associates. Tawara Good, National Center for Cultural Competence and University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at Georgetown University Medical Center. Carrie Griffin, founder of Griffin Hammes Associates, Alan Jensen, a very acknowledged expert on Social Security and Medicaid and Medicaid buy-in. Christopher King, an acknowledged national expert on performance and the workforce development system at the Ray Marshall Center for the Study of Human Resources, University of Texas at Austin. Lisa Mills, who many of you have worked with now and is a terrific expert and will be working with us on building a better understanding of braiding and bundling of resources for long-term supports to achieve employment outcomes. Bobby Silverstein will be working with us on Section 188 and methods of administration, equal opportunity and protection for job seekers with disabilities. Sally Weiss, the Southeast ADA Center, and Barbara Wiklinski, who you're going to hear about as an expert on stay at work and return to work. All of these, it's a lot of people, it's a lot of organizations. There's a fairly complex structure of interaction and coordination in the public and private sector, in the for-profit and not-for-profit sectors. It is quite a bit of work to just even get all of these people and organizations to make a commitment to ODEP and make a commitment to the LEAD Center. We can do better. They're going to blend their expertise and experiences to help us find new solutions and sustain solutions to improve both employment and economic empowerment for people with disabilities. As I mentioned, we're focused on three primary areas: leadership, employment, and economic advancement. The focus on leadership is where I'm going to pass the baton back to Karen McCullough, the project director for the LEAD Center, and turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. I wanted to comment first on what a privilege it is for me to have the opportunity to be a project director. And one of the primary reasons is that the National Disability Institute went out and recruited and has employed leaders and those with expertise who are people with disabilities, and I'm very pleased to be involved. And I think that this is actually, we have subject matter experts who are people with disabilities, and some of our team leaders are people with disabilities. One of the issues for me as a disability advocate has always been that we have so many people who are looking out for our best interests, but we haven't always had the opportunity to be offering the disability perspective firsthand. And with the LEAD Center, one of the just overwhelming evidences of the foresight in setting up the LEAD Center is to have people with disabilities who actually are offering their disability perspective from a first-hand basis. And I can share with you, we've been together now 4 months, that in fact the disability perspective is coming into program planning and the execution of the LEAD Center. And for anyone who knows me that is attending this webinar knows that I probably am not someone who is afraid to speak up when I have a specific point of view. And I think that that's an important recognition that we've reached a time in this country where we bring leaders with disabilities into the dialogue and into the leadership and in collaboration with all of the partners and our subject matter experts. We really want to get the job done, and I am passionate about our mission. The LEAD Center, I guess you would say it's an opportunity for me, and I do want to share this with you. I am a person, along with some other disabilities, has a dual sensory impairment. I am both visually and hearing impaired, and right now I'm using assistive hearing technology, and I'm using assistive technology on my computer. And I think it's an important point that we have been we've had the opportunity to recognize what is possible, what might not have been possible 20 years ago is, But I am challenged for the first time. This has given me the opportunity to be involved in a webinar from the inside rather than attending a webinar from the outside. And so I think that my own personal experience of being a project director and involved in this webinar is exciting, and it's also challenging. So having said that, we want to talk about the enhancement of access for job seekers and workers with disabilities to have the full range of services and supports available in the American Job Centers. And one of those is that is calling attention to people with disabilities to step up. We need to be involved in our own self-advocacy skills. We need to know what is to expect. We need to know how to self-disclose. And if we should self-disclose, we need to know what accommodations we need or to receive the expertise, advice, or counsel from people that will help us understand what it is that we need. So when we're talking about developing of strong leaders within the nation's workforce investment system who are knowledgeable in effective practices related to the training and employment of the prospective workers with disabilities, we have brought in partners who can help us do that and enhance the opportunities within the public workforce system. When we talk about the opportunities, we want to address one of the demonstration projects that is led by one of our team leaders, Alex Kelty, who is working directly with Kelly Buckland. Kelly's the Executive Director of the National Council of Independent Living, and he's going to join us just to talk a little bit about this project that is directed to Centers for Independent Living. Kelly?
First of all, I think I'd like to start off by just saying it's really an honor for Nickel to be involved in this project, and it's been stated before, but I don't think it can be overstated. The high quality number of organizations and individuals that have all been brought together to make this project work, and it really is an honor for us to be involved. And as you know, Centers for Independent Living do not have a mandate to do employment stuff, but a number of them across the country have been doing stuff in regards to employment, and so it really kind of made sense for us to be involved in this project. And so just to tell you a little bit about what we have been doing, we've recruited 5 centers for independent living across the United States to become pilot sites in regards to a demonstration project in this. And they will be providing peer-to-peer training, technical assistance, and education on self-advocacy skills to job seekers with disabilities with the goal of increasing their ability to effectively utilize the job centers and access services, training, and assistance. We have recruited 5 centers. They have some specific skills already in regards to employment and working with job seekers with disabilities. And they already have established relationships with their local American job centers. The CILs will be working with 10 job seekers through the process of accessing the services provided by the American Job Center, where the final goal is that the job seekers will find employment and increase their economic self-sufficiency. The local AJC staff will also receive training from the staff from the CIL on disability awareness and appropriate communication with job seekers representing a cross-spectrum of disabilities, meaning that we want to make sure that this is a cross-disability effort and we have people with all different kinds of disabilities participating. And we want to make sure that those people have full access to services and accommodations as they need. As Karen suggested, that there are accommodations and assistive tech to help people who are seeking employment achieve their employment goals. So that's one of the things that we'll be trying to make sure that we do address as well. So we do have, like I said, we have the 5 pilot sites. Those centers for independent living are in Birmingham, Alabama, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, St. Louis, Missouri, Helena, Montana, and Hayward, California. And we really tried to get across spectrum of centers as well, representing the South, the Midwest, the East Coast, and the West Coast, and urban as well as rural centers. And we were extremely pleased that we were able to recruit the centers that we did, but we are very excited about the participation of the center in Helena, Montana, because the city itself has a population of like 25,000. So I think it's going to give us a great rural perspective. So this pilot will result in the development of partnership models for replication nationally and to expand the effective participation of citizens with disabilities in the job centers through the participation of the Centers for Independent Living. And we anticipate that the centers will develop relationships with the American Job Centers, and we believe that the CILs are, and more will be, an important part of the public workforce. And we think this is really going to help encourage other centers across the country to get involved. And as I said, Nichols very excited about being part of this project. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Karen.
Okay, thank you very much. We do feel that with the this is a focus on having CILs being involved in as workforce development partners in the workforce development system. And what we're hoping is that in the end, one of our outcomes will be in using the Centers for Independent Living, who are going to be pilot sites, as role model CILs, where we can gather the lessons learned and best practices and create a model that can be disseminated across the country to other CILs to hopefully begin to pick up and also get involved in the employment. The independent living philosophy is somewhat different, and it is a focus on holistic, on the person with the disability, and this is like a really exciting new direction for the country to go with the focus on this. Now let us go to the focus on employment, and I want to turn this over to Elizabeth, who will pick up on this. Thanks, Elizabeth, and thank you very much, Kelly, for being on our webinar today.
Thank you so much, Karen, and thank you, Kelly. As mentioned in the name of the LEAD Center, there's a focus on leadership, but there's also a focus on employment. Not only identifying opportunities for people to better utilize some of the supports that currently exist, like the American Job Centers, but there also exists a critical need for the testing, scalability, and replication of novel and proven innovations that focus on the unique abilities of individuals across the spectrum of disability and inclusive of mature workers. To this end, the LEAD Center will focus on bringing to scale both effective practices previously invested in by ODEP and novel strategies focused on improving employment outcomes of citizens with disabilities. The LEAD Center will also focus on implementing innovative strategies aimed at facilitating the magnitude of systems transformation necessary to ensure the widespread deployment of effective practices coupled with policy guidance to lead to sustained improvements in the employment of citizens with disabilities. To bring this down to a level that kind of where the rubber meets the road, led by TASH, a collaborative of subject matter experts from across the country, will provide local-level training and technical assistance that will support the integration of both proven effective practices. These practices include, but are not limited to, an innovation called group discovery, as well as customized employment and self-employment, and will also include developing models for the validation of these novel strategies, the validation of additional novel strategies within the application of workforce development services. So we're really pleased that we're going to have TASH at a local level provide different strategies, including group discovery, customized and self-employment, at local American Job Centers so that they can start to implement those strategies within those centers. Through the dissemination of policy guidance and technical assistance at the state level, the LEAD Center will promote the alignment of policy, practice, and funding strategies across systems to facilitate participation in the workforce of job seekers and workers with disabilities possessing long-term support needs. To provide you a little bit more information and guidance on how this TASH collaborative will lead to systems change at both an individual and a state level, we have with us Lisa Mills. Lisa Mills has 22 years experience in the disability field, including 10 years working in the area of employment. She has 7 years experience as a consultant to the Wisconsin Department of Health Services on employment systems change. And including her lead work, she is currently working in 10 states, focusing on state-level consultation and technical assistance to improve employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities who require long-term support. We're really pleased today to have Lisa Mills with us so that she can provide you her perspective on how this systems change will impact employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. TASH is very pleased to be part of the LEAD initiative, and our collaborative includes myself, Michael Callahan and Abby Cooper, both of Mark Golden Associates, and Janet Stevely of Griffin Hammis Associates. We will be working in the states of Kansas and Ohio using a fairly intensive technical assistance and systems change support model. We are very appreciative to the LEAD Center and to ODEP for allowing us to do this kind of work in an intensive way with 2 states. We will collaborate very closely with the state's DEI grant leads, and our project really is to develop, our goal is to develop a replicable strategy for other state workforce systems to really integrate and bring to scale proven best practices that have been developed and validated through ODEP. And as Elizabeth mentioned, these include discovery, and we will be developing capacity in the workforce system to facilitate group discovery, and also then out of that to help people develop customized employment plans that would either put them on a path to customized wage employment or customized self-employment depending on their strengths, interests, and then to be able to provide the technical assistance and training and capacity development to enable one-stops and their provider network to help people realize the goals of those plans. So unlike some other systems change approaches of the past, we are not just demonstrating practice at the individual level, but we are at the same time going to focus on what it takes to make those, to help systems develop and cooperate and create a mechanism for ensuring these services become routinely available and accessible to people with disabilities throughout these states. So we will combine direct capacity building at the direct service level with state-level work to ensure the services become available through the workforce system as a way for the workforce system to most effectively serve job seekers with disabilities, including those with more significant disabilities who in the past may have not utilized a job center for employment assistance. We also want to focus on developing the necessary interagency collaboration and to get real concrete about the different ways that the systems will cooperate with each other around common customers. So more than just a broad interagency agreement, but very specific examples of ways that partnership will happen on the individual level, and that people who work in those systems can have a mutual understanding of how the systems are expected to work together. And one of the things we really want to focus on is developing that relationship between the workforce system and the Medicaid long-term support system to enable more folks who rely on Medicaid long-term support and who would need that support to work to also take advantage of the services of the one-stop system.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa, for broadening our horizons on what the TASH Collaborative will do and the systems change that will occur. We are going to engage in these activities because we believe that collectively they will result in a comprehensive focus on both the scalability of effective practices and sustained systems transformation, leading to real progress in improving the employment outcomes of individuals with disabilities. It's important to note that, as Lisa mentioned, we'll begin this work in Ohio and Kansas, but we're looking to develop models that will be able to be brought to scale in other states as well. A second employment activity that the LEAD Center will be engaging in is a return-to-work model. This model includes working with a national employer to identify and confirm factors that influence an employer's perspective with respect to integrating and managing workers with disabilities in the workplace. We will demonstrate how to promote the employability of the aging workforce and employees impacted either by work-related or non-work-related injury, illness, or disability, all while reducing employer costs. We're going to take a moment to invite Barbara Walensky to share with us her return-to-work model. Barbara Walensky has a 20-year history of working with employers across market sectors on stay-at-work and return-to-work strategies for persons with disabilities, and we're very excited to have her join the LEAD Center as our technical expert in this area who will be rolling out this initiative with our national employer. So welcome, Barbara.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I need to preface this that I am in a recovery phase, so my voice may be a bit hoarse or strained. But besides working 20 years with all employers of all different sizes, shapes, and complexities and across the multi-state environments, I also have a company that provides employment services for people with disabilities. So I've been a long-time professional in helping people with disabilities obtain and retain their work. And we're delighted to engage in collaboration with Costco Wholesale. It's as our demonstration partner. Costco is the fifth largest retailer and has about 605 warehouses averaging 250 to 300 employees across about 438 locations in 40 of our United States and Puerto Rico. And they employ 107,200 full and part-time associates. And most important here is that 40% of them are over the age of 50. Now, while a large portion of this grant is to achieve entrance for people with disabilities to the workforce, employers are increasingly challenged to prevent and manage individuals with disabilities already employed in their workplace. And as the workforce ages, an increasing amount of individuals encounter chronic health issues or injury which may need accommodation. And whether that disabling injury occurred on the weekend, during a sports activity, or at the work site, the bottom line for the employer is the worker is absent, and that means lost time costs. So there is an early mutual self-interest for the employer and the worker to retain employment. Now, to define what we mean when we talk in the corporate world about disability management, it is a comprehensive, proactive, organized system of service delivery that is designed to coordinate the medical, financial, and vocational needs of the worker to get them back to work. Employers use numerous programs that have in place to control for absence and support the worker. But it's one known research fact that employers are all too familiar is that when a person is out of work for more than 6 months, there's only a 50% chance that they'll ever return to work. And this path passes that person from one department to the next, to one doctor to the next, and one system to the next. And that I mean by short-term disability to long-term disability, and then to Social Security disability. So the goal of this project is to intervene to prevent this migration. And partnering with Costco, We hope to learn and identify, discover, and document effective return to work policies, best practice, and strategies at both an individual and system level to protect the employability of the aging workforce and working employees who have incurred a work-related or non-work-related injury, illness, or disability. Now, one of the known cornerstones for success is the capacity of the employer to negotiate workplace flexibility. At the system level, case management, return to work, and stay-at-work programs are the hallmark of employer-defined flexibility, where the individual gradually transitions back to work. And these pathways of accommodation that employers engage in involve numerous methods such as job modification to the way the work's performed, use of adaptive equipment, assistive technology, flexible schedules, share responsibilities or reassignment, and a whole host of other support programs that they've put in place. And when permanent accommodations are needed to retain mature and disabled workers, flexibility, again, of the workplace is key, along with communication and corporate policy that guides that process is the most critical. So this project looks to establish a set of practical and economical recommendations that will help control absence related to needless work disability and document proven strategies to pass on to the larger employer community. At the same time, we seek to learn the challenges that Costco faces and to seek some solutions, whether at a corporate level or at a system social policy level. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara, for providing that overview. We really feel very privileged to have been able to garner this national employer and to have the expertise of Barbara to support this return to work model. I'm now going to hand over to Michael Morris for him to provide more information on the LEAD Center's focus on economic advancement.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. Again, leadership, employment, and that third core area being economic advancement. LEAD Center staff and subject matter experts will educate stakeholders on available economic advancement strategies that can be accessed in communities across the country and further integrated into the workforce delivery system. CFE Fund will design a financial empowerment program to deploy systematic integrations within the American Job Centers using proven supports to improve employment opportunities and financial stability for program participants, including professional financial counseling, safe banking products, and other opportunities as appropriate. Core strategies are that there are a myriad of economic advancement strategies. For too long, people with disabilities have been ignored, and what we hope to do is shift from employment as the focus to a goal of a more comprehensive approach to integrate employment with the approach to financial stability as one integrated, synergistic approach that will benefit individuals with disabilities to both advance employment and economic self-sufficiency. I want to turn for a few minutes to a very unique partnership which we have begun with Cities for Financial Empowerment, which is based in New York City, and I want to turn it to Amelia or Jonathan to talk a little bit about who you are and the wonderful work that has started in New York City and is flowing across the country.
Thanks so much, Michael. This is Jonathan Mintz. I'm here with Amelia Irwit, my partner. We're really excited about being part of this opportunity, and as you say, Michael, folks on this call may not necessarily be familiar with our work, and I think that it's the newness of this collaboration that I think is what excited all of us about working together. Our mission at the CFE Fund, as I think you can see on your slide, is to improve the financial stability of households. We do that by embedding financial empowerment strategies, not just offering them generally, but by embedding those programs and strategies into the infrastructure of local government. We do that in 4 key areas: financial education and counseling, access to safe and affordable financial products, asset building, savings, and that sort of thing, and consumer financial protections. Cities like New York and our partners in the CFE have really been seeing increasing value in using our control of public programs and funding streams to implement large-scale approaches to leveraging a safe bank account, to sending clear messages of where one can go for safe and professional financial counseling services, because remember that people who are in financial distress are not just suffering and looking for help, they're also being preyed upon in the marketplace by for-profit providers that are often looking to just pull some upfront fees with some get-out-of-debt-quick schemes. Over the course of the work that we have been doing in the financial empowerment arena over these last several years through municipalities, one of the things that we've discovered and the way that we ended up hooking up initially with Michael is that when this work was embedded into other human service delivery streams, those host programs started achieving better outcomes themselves, in addition to the financial empowerment outcomes in and of themselves. We refer to this as the supervitamin effect and have released a series of reports over the last several months detailing some of those efforts locally. We have some national replication projects in cities across the country that are also going to use municipal opportunities to push out large-scale professional financial counseling and to embed that counseling into various aspects of their public programs, including homeless prevention, workforce centers, schools. We can help, for example, get people to a place where they're eligible for loans that are available through state and federal programs like for housing. So we're achieving these kinds of impacts, and it is that integration, that supervitamin effect that we're looking to bring into the mix of this exciting LEAD Center proposal. So we were really looking forward to our ability to design with all of you a replicable way to bring financial empowerment into the mix and to address the financial stability aspect of workforce development. Thank you.
Jonathan, that's fantastic. Again, for those of us in the disability community, what you're doing has so much promise. The supervitamin, the integrated service delivery, and I think what's most exciting, as you said, is it's not only about achieving financial stability, but it's actually improving other outcomes that are the focus of other human service agencies within the public and private sector or in coordination together. So we're very excited about the opportunity. We know you've had a chance now to meet Assistant Secretary Kathy Martinez, and we really look forward to a great series of collaborations over the next several years. Let me go from this area of economic advancement to another key area of focus for the LEAD Center, and that is a focus on public policy development, certainly at the core, at the foundation of the creation of Office of Disability Employment Policy within the U.S. Department of Labor. We intend to develop policy analysis and tools to advance ODEP'S leadership role to promote policy reform and systems change that advances employment and socioeconomic advancement of individuals with disabilities. I think the way to look at this is it's not just about what the America's Job Centers are all about with many mandated partners, but as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, it's about the interactions of so many systems that touch people with significant disabilities every day and every week. The interaction between employment and healthcare, the interaction between employment and, as was just discussed, economic stability, the interaction between employment and community living, the interaction between employment and transportation. all of these require additional thinking and hopefully working together on further policy guidance and further policy alignment within the Department of Labor and the workforce investment system, but also in connection and in collaboration with so many of these other systems. Working with ODEP, we established a short list of priorities for only our first year of activity. And for this first year of activity, I want to share with you what those 5 priorities are. But first, and most important, I think, is this connection between labor and the really pervasive topic today of healthcare and access to affordable healthcare and what Medicaid and Medicare covers. And to do that, I want to turn to my colleague and co-team leader for the Lead Center of Public Policy, Ari Neiman. Many of you know Ari as the founder of ASAN, Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. He has been honored by President Obama to be an appointee to the National Council on Disability, and also privileged to share our office suite with ASAN here in Washington, D.C. Ari is probably one of the most sought-after speakers from a perspective of a person with a disability, but far more than that, for his insights and his extensive knowledge of these multiple systems. So let me turn it over to Ari to talk a little bit about this labor CMS collaboration.
Thank you very much, Michael, and it's a pleasure working with NDI and all of the other esteemed partners on the LEAD Center in this initiative. Core to LEAD's activities in public policy is supporting the Office of Disability Employment Policy, ODEP'S, priorities, not only with respect to its own grantees, but also in its interactions with other parts of the federal government. Now, over the course of the last several decades, the Center on Medicare and Medicaid Services, primarily through the Medicaid program, has had an increasing role in the financing and structuring of employment supports, particularly for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as the main financing mechanism, again through the Medicaid program, for supported employment services. This is a high priority for the LEAD Center and for our public policy team, and looking at how we can support the development of best practices and the proliferation of those practices throughout state Medicaid agencies is one of the areas in which we're most looking forward to supporting ODEP'S collaboration with CMS. As many of you are no doubt aware, over the course of the last several years, many state systems have adopted employment first principles, bringing the opportunities for integrated employment for people with the most significant disabilities to the forefront of state policy-making activities. We're looking to try and support that at the federal level. In September of 2011, CMS issued an informational bulletin outlining core service definitions to states. That's been one of the foundational documents in some of our work with both CMS and ODEP in discussing how to further flesh out that information and provide technical assistance as to how this can help advance forward the disability employment picture. But we're also looking, and I think this is equally important, beyond the supported employment and intellectual and developmental disability sphere in discussions about where healthcare access intersects with the broader picture of employment for people with disabilities. Now, historically, lack of access to the private health insurance market has been one of the single largest obstacles to greater progress in fulfilling the goals of the Americans with Disabilities Act to achieve improved employment outcomes for people with disabilities. With the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, we now have a truly unprecedented and I think once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to begin building a new paradigm for health insurance access for people with disabilities. Over the course of the last several months, we've seen new guidance from HHS on the structure of the Affordable Care Act's exchange systems and how they will interact with the Medicaid program. There's discussion of allowing state Medicaid agencies to use Medicaid and CHIP, Children's Health Insurance Plan funds, to support purchasing of private health insurance plans on the Affordable Care Act's exchanges. There are many questions that will need to be determined at both the state and the federal level as to how people with disabilities, both on the SSI program and currently interacting with Medicaid, and who may not currently be interfacing with public health insurance, will be able to take advantage of these new exchange systems. And we're proud to have the opportunity to be working with some real national leaders at ODEP, like Assistant Secretary Kathy Martinez, to help to move forward the policy discussion. Michael, thanks very much for kicking this off, and looking forward to engaging.
Great. Thanks, Ari. And this, as I said, is just one of the 5 priority areas that have been identified with ODEP for year 1. Let me quickly go through some of the others. Number 2 is about the Workforce Investment Act, Section 188, and methods of administration. For those of you who may not be familiar with that section of the Workforce Investment Act, this relates to equal opportunity, effective and meaningful participation of job seekers with disabilities within America's job centers, as well as through other services offered by training providers and mandated partners under the Act. We are going to be looking at what states are doing most currently. The last time a review was done was about 10 years ago, and we're hoping to really identify best practices and update materials that were really developed a number of years ago, including the disability checklist. So this is one, again, that ties directly in to the earlier work that was discussed by Nicole, by Kelly and Karen, because this will help with access issues. This will help with not just physical and communication, but also programmatic access issues. Issue number 3 is about performance measurement and waiver options, also under the Workforce Investment Act. Many people with disabilities and the workforce professionals and the senior management in the workforce development system have struggled with the performance measurement system. Many people have suggested that perhaps it is a challenge to really registering job seekers with disabilities and have stayed away from it, worried about the numbers and the quantitative measurement of outcomes. We're hoping to do a fresh and current look at the issue and perhaps be able to identify some new options for states that will benefit people with disabilities nationwide. If we turn to the next slide, and that is issue priority number 4, is about this connection between employment and financial capability. There is a new federal agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and ODEP will be collaborating with them, looking at ways to improve consumer education and consumer protection for working age adults and youth with disabilities. And so here is another interesting area for policy tools and policy guidance. And the final area, and of course always a large area of focus, is Social Security, increasing use of work incentives, seeing what can be done that creates better incentives, reduces or eliminates disincentives to employment and economic advancement. Those are the key issues we are going to be looking at. Our method of engaging you will be working with ODEP in development of policy briefs, which will be widely disseminated and offered from the LEAD website once it goes up in the coming months. looking at ways we can be engaged and help ODEP with legislative and regulatory reviews. There will be an annual policy roundtable, which will be by invitation only, but will bring a small group of stakeholders together and really intensively focus in on one issue. We may do the first roundtable on the challenging issue of bundling and braiding resources, getting beyond the payer of last resort and exploration of comparable services. What can be done? Are there additional guidance that can come from the labor system, from the rehabilitation system, from Medicaid, from other systems? So this may be our focused area. Each year we will do one and develop a summary and recommendations that can help the field. And then finally, in Washington, D.C., towards the latter half of this first year, we're going to begin a brown bag education series to bring together external stakeholders and policymakers from across the federal government, again, to build understanding and awareness of the intricacies and the complexities of funding streams, eligibility determination, scope of services. How can we do more that improves employment and economic status for people with disabilities? So pretty robust agenda, and we hope that you will stay tuned with us because we hope with your suggestions, as well as our policy agenda that's been negotiated with ODEP, we're going to be tackling those issues that you're struggling with. And we're going to make progress over the next year and over the next 5 years. So with that, I want to turn it back to Elizabeth to share with you some of the ways you can get engaged with some of the subject matter experts, with some of the national organizations and partners that have been brought together with this wonderful funding from ODEP to create the LEAD Center.
Thank you, Michael. So as you can see, we have a very robust scope of work that we plan to implement over the next year, and we want to make sure that all of you that are on the line today acknowledge that there are several opportunities and ways that you can join us. For starters, you can read our LEAD Center inaugural newsletter. The link is provided to you, and we hope that you will tap into that newsletter and get a deeper overview of what we plan to do in our first year. We'd also like you to join the LEAD Center mailing list. This will keep you up to date on the activities of the LEAD Center and additional ways that you can participate. We'd love for you to connect with us on Facebook, and we have our Facebook page up and ready to go. It's facebook.com/leadctr. We'd also love for you to follow us on Twitter, engage in the conversation, and add your thoughts about what the LEAD Center is doing and the changes you'd like to see happen within the disability community. We'd also encourage you to watch for the launch of our website, www.leadcenter.org, which will be launched in spring of 2013. That's just a few months away. We're very excited as we build the content for that site, and we seek out ways to provide you cutting-edge information on ways to improve, through leadership, employment, and economic advancement, the lives of individuals with disabilities. We're also going to be providing for anybody out in the field a webinar series that will provide 9 different webinars. Today's is the first. We're going to do it in 3 mini-series, one on leadership, one on employment, and one on economic advancement. We'll provide a new webinar on the last Wednesday of the month from 3 p.m. Eastern Time to 4:30 p.m. And the first mini-series is going to focus on economic advancement strategies for workers with disabilities. We'd like to make sure that you have every opportunity to join us for this series, so we're providing you with the dates. The first webinar is going to be held February 27th from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., and the topic will be Promoting Economic Advancement, Free Tax Prep. This webinar will offer attendees an overview of 3 free tax preparation models, how to choose a model, who to partner with, practical steps to implementing a free tax model in American job centers, and a story from the field. Our target audience for this webinar is the workforce investment system and related stakeholders. So if you yourself are a staff member of an American Job Center, if you are a not-for-profit or a disability service provider, or even if you're a business, if you have interest in learning more about how you can support individuals in receiving free tax preparation and claiming favorable tax provisions that are designed to provide more into the pockets of individuals with disabilities, then I encourage you to join us on February 27th. We're going to be engaging the IRS to join us, and it's going to be a great free webinar for you to increase your knowledge on this topic. Our March webinar is going to be held on March 27th, again from 3 to 4:30. This time, again, we're promoting economic advancement, but the topic will be financial education. This webinar will offer attendees a context for the need for and benefits of financial education, connections to free financial education curriculums and resources, practical steps to implementing Money Smart, which is a free financial education curriculum, implementing Money Smart in American Job Centers, and again, a story from the field. We have our target audience again as the workforce investment system and related stakeholders. But even if you are not a provider, if you're an individual with a disability on the line and you're interested in increasing your own financial literacy, this would be a great webinar to attend. Financial education is an excellent first step for anybody who is interested in increasing their financial stability because it's a step that doesn't have any negative impact. So as individuals get concerned about increasing their earnings or increasing their savings or participating in opportunities that would provide them chances to build assets, fears rise up around public benefits and other issues, and financial education can be a great first step because there's no negative impact. There's no concern of losing a public benefit, of saving too much or earning too much. Just good information about how any individual can increase their financial competency and do better with their money. We will also be providing an April webinar, which will be held on April 24th. This will be the last in the Economic Advancement series, and it will be on using work incentives to build financial stability. This webinar will offer individuals an overview of the two Social Security disability benefit programs, opportunities to increase income through the use of SSDI work incentives, opportunities to increase income through the use of SSI work incentives, and a better understanding of work incentives that support savings above the $2,000 SSI asset limit. The target audience for this webinar is individuals with disabilities and related stakeholders, and we're going to make sure that within each of the three mini-series, we always have one webinar that is targeted to individuals with disabilities. But this webinar would really be good for anybody who would like to increase their understanding of how Social Security disability benefit programs work and how they can be a great connector for individuals who are interested in employment but would also like to look at employment as just one step towards building a better financial future for themselves. As I mentioned, these are just 3 of the 9-part webinar series that we plan on holding. All of them will be free and open to anyone who would like to join us. And if you have other thoughts about webinars that you would like to see, we're always going to be interested in better understanding from the field the kind of training opportunities that you would like provided through the LEAD Center, topics of importance to you, and anything we can do to help you better participate in improving the leadership, the employment, and the economic advancement of individuals with disabilities. If you haven't already taken the time to put your questions into the question and answer box or into the chat box, I encourage you to do so now. We're going to take the next 15 minutes to answer questions from those that we still have on the line. We're going to start with a first question, which is, how can successful organizations like the Employment Alliance for People with Disabilities get involved? Michael, would you like to answer?
Sure. The starting point is that you sign up for participation in the webinar series, you sign up for the newsletter, but we also would love to talk with you offline, because it may be in one of the demonstration projects, it may be in some of the public policy issues that there are opportunities for direct collaboration. We certainly could look to adding you as a major dissemination partner, but we'd love to have added conversation with you and learn from your experiences, but also see whether we can loop you into appropriate activities that the LEAD Center will be conducting that meet your interests.
Thank you, Michael. A second question we have is, where is the nearest LEAD Center to my area? I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Wow. It seems like that's almost a plug. We want LEAD centers all across the country working on all of these incredible policy issues, building capacity of the workforce development system, working on return to work strategies. Well, right now there's only one LEAD center. Its staff, as we've discussed, are virtual. Some are in Washington, D.C., some are across the country, in wonderful partnerships with other subject matter experts and other national organizations. Right now, there is only one LEAD center, and my hope is that you really can join with us to learn about how you can be an agent for systemic change with your workforce development system, with bringing together better the issues between employment and economic advancement, with helping us learn about the strategies that are going to improve the supports for people with disabilities that are not just funding through labor, but funding that are bundled and braided from other systems, Medicaid being a major one. But again, all of these things are really to say is the LEAD Center belongs to all of us, and we're appreciative of your interest, and I hope we can find ways to continue to engage you in our work and help us be a champion for change in policy and practice.
Speaking of being a champion for change in policy and practice, our next question is, how would an individual with a disability be able to pass or investigate a policy? Be able to pass or investigate a
policy. I think that when the website goes up, there will be a specific section on the website that is dedicated to policy. There you're going to see both policy guidance that is being developed with ODEP, and it's also going to be a place where I think you could learn a lot more about what are current policy issues, legislative proposals that are pending, as well as the kinds of activities that maybe can engage you at a state or local level. So please stay tuned. That launch is coming this spring, and hopefully we can get you involved with our policy work. I do know in year 2 of the project, which would begin in the fall of this year, 2013, in October, we'll begin also to have some communities of practice, and that may be a place where you may want to get involved as well.
Our next question is, what collaborations, if any, is the LEAD Center planning to have with federal hiring managers, such as the Selective Placement Program Coordinators?
That is not one on the current list of priorities for the LEAD Center. I don't know if the microphones are on, but that might be an issue that the team or teams at ODEP are working on. Is there a way for someone at Chris or Serena to answer a question like that? Okay. No. Okay. All right. we'll have to pass that question along to the folks at ODEP, and perhaps you can write, if we don't have your email address, and try to get you an answer.
In fact, if you'd like to send that question to myself, Elizabeth Jennings, my email information is now on the screen. It's EJENNING@ndi-inc.org. I'd be happy to get an answer from our partners at ODEP. The next question is, does the LEAD Center have plans to address WIA policy that may increase the participation of job seekers with disabilities in WIA-funded programs? If so, can you elaborate?
Yes. I think in the work we're going to be doing in reviewing state plans around Section 188 and methods of administration, we're hoping we're going to find some good examples from states which could help you in your state. I think that the work that's going to be done with the 5 independent living centers that was described at the beginning of the webinar offers some opportunity to learn about some new pathways that might improve service delivery and registration and access to intensive services for people with disabilities. And then the third thought I have is that I think that when we look at the policy roundtable on bundling and braiding resources, that I'm hoping the group we assemble will also give us some suggestions that will then be shared with the larger field via our website and our dissemination partners. We'd love to hear from you in terms of specific challenges related to policy that you're facing in related to the workforce investment system and American Job Centers. That can be very helpful in terms of steering us to look for identifying or developing solutions as well.
One of the great things about the LEAD Center is that it's a focus not only on policy but also on practice. So I'd like to take a moment to see if our project director, Karen McCullough, would have anything to add to the question about addressing the increased participation of job seekers with disabilities in WIA-funded programs.
Well, am I connected?
You are, Karen, yes.
Okay, thank you. I do want to say that I think it's an incredibly important question, because this is just exactly what we want. Is we want to encourage individuals with disabilities to participate. I think that one of the answers that Michael gave earlier is when our website is up, we are going to have a blog, and we're going to have an area, and we believe that this is going to provide a medium for which individuals with disabilities can also come to our website, ask questions, request information for assistance, referral, and resources. And so I think this is the first step to answering that question. And I think that as we begin to learn more about what kinds of questions may be coming in, we can develop a more firm or straight curriculum that will address some of these issues. And we want to provide that medium because we do need to hear from individuals with disabilities. So I encourage you to stay tuned and to get involved, connect with our e-newsletter and the other options that Elizabeth has just shared with us previously so that we can engage. Don't know if that answered your question completely, but we do want your input, we do want your involvement, and we will help do referrals as you're interested in if it is all possible.
Thank you so much, Karen. I just want to address that we did get a few questions in the chat box that asked about whether or not this webinar would be posted to be viewed at a later time, and an archive of the webinar is available. Nikia has placed that link into our chat box, so if you missed it, you can always contact myself, Elizabeth Jennings, again at ejennings@ndi-inc.org. Our next question is, I know that the USBLN is a partner. To that point, will the LEAD Center also focus on best practices to engage business enterprise increase employer and supplier diversity and inclusion. I'm sorry. The question is really, I know that the USBLN is a partner. To that point, will the LEAD Center also focus on best practices to engage business enterprises, increase employer and supplier diversity and inclusion?
We're still working on refining the scope of work with USBLN, but it's a major issue. It's a major issue that will come forward even further as the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs looks at moving from a proposed role to a final role about hiring of people with disabilities, so it is not something that is in the short list right now, but as people raise these issues, there also may be another of the centers at ODEP that may be touching on that issue. We'll bring it back to ODEP and see where an appropriate response might come from.
So we don't seem to have any more questions in the chat box. So I'd like to offer an opportunity for our project director, Karen McCullough, to offer some final comments. And before that, I'd just like to reiterate, if you would like to join us, if you'd like to participate, if you would like to provide your input as to the LEAD Center activities or how to participate, please feel free to reach out to myself, Elizabeth Jennings, or to Karen McCullough. Our email addresses are located on the slide. Again, mine is eJennings@ndi-inc.org. We will be happy to hear from you. And there were a few questions in the chat box that were focused on personal information and personal questions. So please feel free to direct those to me, and we'll do our best to get you a factual response as quickly as possible. So with that, I'd like to hand it off to Karen for her final thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that having had the opportunity for this webinar to explore a great deal of what the LEAD Center is about, we've had a wonderful opportunity also to bring some of our subject matter experts on. And I do want to thank Rhonda Basha for speaking on behalf of Assistant Secretary Kathy Martinez, Kelly Backlund from the National Council on Independent Living, Lisa Mills, one of our subject matter experts from the TASH Collaborative, Barbara Wilalinsky is going to be doing the employer practices with Costco, Amelia Irwit, and I know was there with Jonathan Mentz from the Cities Foundation, and for Ari Neiman, who is also with the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. You have heard a snapshot of what the LEAD Center is about. It is indeed a multifaceted, complex initiative that is about collaboration. And as you have learned today, we have already begun a significant amount of work with our national partners and with our dissemination partners, as well as the subject matter experts. So we hope that you will continue, for those of you across the United States, to join us on our future webinars, which Elizabeth has listed for us with our series on economic advancement. And we appreciate very much you joining us today, and we look forward to having the opportunity to be in communication with you for sure when our website is up. And we appreciate the questions that you've asked us. Some of them were compelling, revealing, and we look forward to future dialogue. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to all the LEAD Center team and to the ODEP team for helping us put our first webinar together. Have a great afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us.